It's a pretty good time to quit, honestly. We posted at least the photos.
Yeah.
People have the
We
photos.
did what we needed to do.
We can still turn it into any point in time.
A band.
Everybody's
like, "This is a band?" And I'm like,
we also could.
no.
Do that. Wouldn't it be funny if we did make a song just
I
to be
think
like, here
we
you go.
should.
Every time we're
would
going to
be
make a
really
theme
fun.
song
That's
every
true.
time we
Yes.
have an episode.
Just randomly instead of a new episode that drops in between episodes, we release a song. That's how we release a whole
Yes.
album.
Yeah.
I'm surprised someone
A
hasn't
song
done
about the episode, like about like the topic of the episode.
that. Yeah. So there was Leah. She was doing the worm. Smacked her kneecap off the ground. Where did it go? Over to the side. You know? Now she's going for a wheelchair ride.
On the ocean.
Ocean is big and ocean is scary.
Ocean scary. Ocean scary.
Ocean scary.
Look, Brittany can do the back of everything.
Yeah, don't worry about me. I got everything in the bag.
Got this. And I like how
Can you do that in the background of the ASMR?
Yes. Ocean scary. Ocean scary. Ocean scary.
It was different parts of the, and also this. It makes your voice. You know,
I needed to stop.
This is all going to be
that
great
way.
B-roll.
This
is
gonna
going to be
incredible.
great B-roll.
Okay.
What an incredible song.
So I've cried every single episode so far.
You have. You really have. So have you guys figured out this whole like adulting thing yet?
I don't really know what being an adult means. Like I don't know what adulting is.
I feel like there's just a million things to do, like all the time.
I'll be honest and say that most of the time, like, I don't even feel like I'm actually an adult yet.
Honestly, same.
This is a theme song. It's about adulthood. We haven't told you that yet, but we said the lines already.
Surprise!
Now it's a theme song, and now it fades away into. Honestly, same.
Ooh, honestly, same.
Honestly, same.
Honestly, same.
Honestly,
Honestly,
same.
same. Honestly,
Honestly, same. Honestly, same.
Honestly, same.
Honestly, same.
Honestly, same.
All right, guys, ready to talk about being adults or lack thereof?
Yeah, ready as I'll ever be.
Or at least attempting to be. Do we have our big boy and big girl pants on for this one?
I'm wearing my MC Hammer pants, is what I call
You
them.
don't want to know about my pants.
Okay, that's fair. That is very fair. Because I know about your pants, but maybe the listeners
wanna
and
know about
viewers don't want to know about our pants. Well, not our pants, but your pants.
Oh yeah, put it on me.
So now your pants are my fault, is what you're saying.
Nick made fun of my pants when I left today, actually. He's like, "You're wearing those?"
My pants have a gigantic rip in the gooch of them. Can I say gooch on this
Wow.
show? Am I allowed to say gooch on this show?
If you say that, I might as well say why we can't talk about my pants.
I mean, we can't. I mean, yeah, it's not. That's
Yeah,
not like.
no, not necessarily. It's just girlhood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Which could be a whole episode in itself.
And it
I could
should
just,
be.
I
Write
could
that
just
down.
sit and
Yeah.
learn some things.
Write that down.
Write that down. Write that down right now. Write it down in the notes. Sit back, shut up, write it down. We're talking. Okay, so yeah, we're talking about some struggles. As people can hear, we're struggling to get it together, to make a podcast together. But we're a bunch of adults sitting around a table making a podcast like adults do nowadays.
Yeah.
I've heard that adults do this.
I have heard many adults do this, and I think we're
I
doing.
was
a
wondering
decent
when I
job.
was going to do this, so I could feel,
So that you could feel like you've
So you
actually
finally
grown
grow
up.
up, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just kind of start this episode by talking about who we currently are as adults. So let's talk about our current state of adulthood, maybe any struggles that we're dealing with, of
Okay.
the struggles of doing a podcast together. But I feel like we can lay the groundwork there of like where we are at right now as adults.
Yeah.
Okay, Brittany, why don't you go first? We'll go youngest to oldest.
Okay, yeah. So my birthday's tomorrow, as we know.
Yay!
I'll be 28.
But however, listener and viewer, whenever you're listening to this,
Oh, that's true.
you can still tell her happy birthday tomorrow. Whenever you're hearing this, just do that to be nice.
Yes, I will be just as appreciative. 28. My mental age, we've talked about this before, is like 22, 23 is where I see myself still. Like I know my age, like the logical part of me knows my age, but when I'm sitting there thinking about life, I still think that I'm that age. So the adult things in my life, I own a house. That feels very adult.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's I couldn't imagine.
This can go, both ways, but I am married.
Okay.
That's pretty adult. You do not have to be married to be an adult, but it's a big decision to make.
Is it is an
About
adult thing?
your adulthood, a lot of it is who you're spending it with.
Mm-hmm. And I have 2 babies, which feels like an adult thing to do.
Yeah.
Or not. It could be the opposite. I think I fall somewhere in the middle for those.
Can you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
Like, I wouldn't say that I was like fully ready to be a mom.
Okay. Yeah.
But the adult part of that, which would mean that I should have been a little bit more careful, possibly. The adult part of that was getting ready, figuring out how to be ready, and then keeping my kids alive, which, as far as I know today, they are still doing very well.
Good. You guys might see an update going out on the social media. We'll get some updates coming in.
Update: Brittany's birthday disaster.
Brittany from Honestly
No one
Sane
is well.
podcast.
Everyone's well. Yeah, and I did a little bit of schooling. I got my doula certification. I've done a lot of things that I thought were adult things that I could name, but that is most true to me right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Leah?
No. You're the
Me?
next.
Oh, me. Okay, we're going to go this way.
I'm the oldest.
Oh, yeah, that's true. You did say that. I forgot. See, it's not very
That makes me
adult.
in charge.
Can you
of me.
please listen?
See,
Turn your
That's-
ears on.
You know what? And she said that into headphones that I am wearing, and I still missed it.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is I feel like I simultaneously feel like I'm so adult, so grown up, so mature, but at the same time, I look at the way my life is structured, and it doesn't feel like an adult's life at all. When I look at anybody around me, like similar age, same age, whatever, I'm like, oh yeah, they have a house or kids or a spouse or this job that's very structured, and they do these things, and I make my own schedule every single day. If I want to sit at home all day and do nothing, I can, and there's no repercussions of it. I can stay up until 4 a.m. and do something, and there's no repercussions. I can decide to pick up 16 new hobbies a week, and it doesn't matter. Or you know what I mean? I feel like there's this weird
disconnect between your age and what would you say is your mental age? Because Brittany said she's about 22. So how old do you feel like you feel if you're not your age?
It's so hard to pinpoint. I feel like it's 24, 25 probably.
Okay.
I don't feel like, because at the time of us recording this, I'm about to be 30.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which I feel like is labeled as the adult, you know what I mean? It's oh, you're 30 now.
Yeah.
Life's that's just what it is. And
yeah.
I don't feel equal to, I don't feel, and not in a bad way. It's not something that I beat myself up over where I'm oh my God, you really need to get it together. But even though I have all of this freedom in my life, it comes from a bunch of work that I did as a mature adult who's growing. You know what I mean? It comes from a place of having done a lot of work to have so much relaxed freedom, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So there's this weird thing. So that's where I feel like I'm at, is I'm okay, you're a 30-year-old,
almost,
but you have a cat and you eat Chipotle all the time and you stay up late and sleep in whenever you want. But I feel like amongst that, I have so many disciplines, though.
One of the wonderful things about being an adult, though, is that you can. One of the first things I did as an adult was I went out and I bought the cereal that I liked, that my parents never bought. When I had my first place, I was I'm going to stock the cabinets with the stuff that I like, and I'm going to decorate this the way that I like. And I think that part of that freedom of getting to hang out with your cat and do that stuff. I mean, I still feel like I do a lot of the things that I did when I was younger, not because I am still young and immature, but I enjoyed those things. I don't think it's
and why do we put an age range?
Yeah, or
what
a
we
negative
can or can't
connotation
do?
of spending time doing things that we enjoy,
staying up late or
and that's what's
whatever it
weird
is,
is because I'm also and not that there's anything wrong with this, because I've done this some nights too, but it's not like I'm staying up late playing video games till 4 a.m. Usually I'm staying up late working on something that is going to take me forward, and you know what I mean? So that's why I feel like there's this weird disconnect between, because everything I'm doing, most people, when I talk to them, I'm I don't feel like I'm an actual adult. And they're you run 7 businesses and you do 97.
Yeah.
Like that's the most adult thing you could be doing is like making these things work and
but
making
it's
them
hard
successful.
for you to accept those things. A little bit of imposter syndrome, I feel like.
It's hard for me to identify as that because I'm just like, but adulthood's usually painted as this like very stern, the fun's over, like, and we all know that that's not what it really is, but that's kind of what it's portrayed as.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people do have that mentality.
And they do. They do just sort of like sink into that. And where I look at everything, I'm like, I don't see life getting any less enjoyable at any time. We could be doing this show and have the same conversation when I'm about to be 40. Chances are I'm probably going to be saying all the same things, maybe just with a couple added, I do have a house or I do have a wife.
Like,
you know what I mean? Like something like that. But I'm still going to be, I don't think I'm ever going to stop that, like, I don't know, not adult part of me or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The wonder, the like
child within.
Yeah. Like I'm never going to stop tapping into that. But I don't know. Like, how do you feel, Leah? Like,
I definitely feel like I turned 30 in October and, I geared up for that by basically the entire year of being 29 saying I'm going to be 30 this year. Because I know a lot of people like have a trouble like getting over that hump. And I know that, my husband struggled, I think even just like turning 29. And so like everybody has this like it's over thing of like, you hit 30 and all of a sudden it's just like, okay, well my 20s are over, the fun stuff is over and all that crap. But I haven't really felt any different. It's just like any other birthday. It's literally just like, when you turn 10 and people are like, oh, the double digits, and you're like, I still feel the same as I did yesterday. It's just like that. Mm-hmm. But what I will say about like where I'm at with life as far as like the stage of life that I'm in that I'm struggling with, and I think some of this came along with COVID, but I feel like a lot of my friends are like kind of like, I don't know what word I would say. The friend groups are splitting into more specific like groups of like, these are the friends that like have kids that play together. And these are the friends that spend a lot of time with their family. And then these are the single friends. And then these are the like married friends that don't have kids. And so it's like, I actually don't have any family left in Ohio. So all of my like free time and like social time and stuff is spent among friends. And it's just drastically different now than it was even like 5 years ago based on like who has kids now, who's married now. Mm-hmm. Especially during COVID, it was like we all kind of chose our little like pods of people because you had to, keep it to X number of people in a room at a time and, 6 feet apart and all of that stuff. And so you kind of like, in a way found your people and in another way lost your people. Mm-hmm. And so now that things are starting to feel more normal again, I think a lot of us are diving back into social situations where we're like trying to like be like, oh my God, I haven't seen you in so long. Like, let's get together. But it's been so long now that like those people I don't think are ever going to come back into being like my main group. Yeah. I hope to keep them, as friends or acquaintances in my life. But I've realized at this point, like, I think it happens to everybody when you start getting older, but because of COVID, it felt like it was so like cut and dry. You know what I mean? Like it was so black and white. It went from like seeing a bunch of people all the time and hanging out and having a good time to seeing no people and having a really bad time to now being like, okay, I see like certain people and then like certain people on special occasions and it's mostly okay.
Yeah. I feel like that social element is a part of growing up that no one really talks about.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to get time with someone. It's hard to like, because it's everything that you just said of like, okay, well, who has kids and then how much time do they have outside of those kids or their jobs that are super important or their like whatever it is, like all the quote unquote adult things that come to the forefront of everybody's lives, which is totally fair, not an issue at all. But when you're sitting and you don't have all of those exact things in the same alignment or something, it does become a less like, oh, wait, can't I just hit this person up to hang out now? Like, do we really have to, maybe we do need to schedule it 3 months in advance. Maybe we do need to, and I feel like that has been also my biggest struggle growing up more is because I have, for basically the last decade, I did so much work to make a life that is completely free to my choice of like what I want to do every day. Mm-hmm. So I know I'm also disciplined enough to get everything done that I need to get done, So I have this balance of like, oh yeah, the only day that this person can hang out is that day. Okay, I can absolutely choose, unless there's something I can't back out of. I can choose, oh yeah, I can be free that entire day. What time works for you? So it's like I did all this work to build this life of, being a fulfilling one filled with all these things. It takes up a lot of time and energy and all this sort of stuff, but did all that work. So now I'm free to do whatever I want. Mm-hmm. But now I'm finding, oh wait, everyone else who is, again, same or similar age, all these adult things are popping up. So I can hang out, but I don't think that they can. Or I can want to go do that fun thing, but I don't think that they can. And I think it doesn't even come down to like if somebody has kids or something. I've just noticed that like, and this is a whole other episode, so I know we'll get into it another time, but like I also do think that like the struggle of fulfillment as we get older, because we just become so focused on our job or the tasks at hand, which, to stick with the theme, is a very adult thing to do. We got to take care of the bills and the family. There's those responsibilities. That's such a huge thing. But I think there's such an imbalance most often by people who are like, all right, we've got our responsibilities, but there's another part of the balance here.
For like why we have these responsibilities. What is it all for?
Well, and like Brittani, you have responsibilities of like work and stuff, but your biggest responsibility is like to be a mom. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, I mean, I'd love to hear your input of like, do you feel like you see your friends with kids less now?
I'm very lucky, and all my friends are pretty hands-on, like with my family. Like all my friends just were a lot of people talk about once they have kids, like you really find out who your friends are. All my friends have been amazing the whole time.
Okay, good.
They've all been hands-on. I didn't lose anyone in that way. Like no one really grew a different way. Ross is like a good example. He is doing lots of different things that have nothing to do with kids, but he's like great with my kids and down to see my kids whenever.
Yeah.
Which is a very adult thing, because you could be like, no, I want to do things that are only going to serve me.
Yeah, why don't we just hang out and watch a scary movie?
Right.
Why did no.
Especially when your friendships were built on other things prior to the
kids of course.
Showing up. Mm-hmm. I will say, I think the only thing that is tough is people with kids or without kids don't understand how they think they understand how time consuming and everything having kids is, but my off days are Wednesday through Friday, and those days Zach isn't home, so I'm home with the kids and I'm clocked in that way.
Yes.
So 0 days off every single week, like 2 to 3 hours a night, Wednesday through Friday only, because I close the other days at work.
Yeah.
To like be with my family. So making that like friend time, there are sometimes that friends just won't understand that like, where does that fit in? If I'm doing anything for myself at the same time. That's super tough to navigate, but ultimately I feel like I've got a good group of people in my life that have been.
Well, that's really good. Yeah. And I feel like circling back to what you said about like, I don't know, people maybe not understanding. The one thing that kind of hit me, because I have a friend and she's got a daughter, and I'm all the way, here in Columbus, and she's still in Cleveland. And so like once she had a baby, it was like we saw each other so much less. But I understand, because something that I think she actually said it the last time I saw her, because they haven't had a chance to make a trip out to Columbus yet, because she's not super great with like long car rides yet. But she was like, I'm looking for a way to find like as much time with her as I can, because even though she's a teacher, she gets her summers off. She goes, even though I have my summers off, she's like, I wake up and I have this amount of time with her before I have to go to work. Mm-hmm. And then I get home and I have this much amount of time with her before she goes to bed.
And she's a different kid in the morning than she is that night, or when she wakes up the next day. And
exactly.
You can miss monumental things.
Yeah. Exactly. And she's really lucky. Her mom just comes over and like spends the day. And so it's a very like, it's not like she's feeling like she's neglecting her daughter in any way, shape, or form. But I also understand like, hey, you want to be home to like put your kids to bed sometimes. Like you want to be there for that moment, because maybe you didn't get to see them all day.
And the adult part of it is just knowing that you created these people that no matter what you want to be doing right now, ultimately like you're their comfort. And it's your responsibility to like put them to bed when you can.
Absolutely.
How do you feel like you're balancing and Brittany, I'm tossing this to you. Like, how do you feel like you're balancing all of those responsibilities of being a mom, but also maintaining a sense of like self identity, but also like having fun, also what does it look like for you? And obviously we'll all kind of dive into this, but since we're on like this sort of like parenthood subject right now.
It took me being like thrown back into work to find any like sort of me, because I was just home 24/7 because it was the pandemic. So I wasn't allowed to leave. And then when I could leave, I couldn't really leave with babies that are so susceptible to sicknesses. So it took me getting like back into the workforce, and unfortunately working retail, just where I ended up, just to like get socialized again, because being inside with the pandemic, I went from Winry being born to it was flu season, so I kept her inside, and then flu season ended and we entered the pandemic, and no one knew what that meant, so I just couldn't go outside with her. So we did not leave the house from like November 2019 until way deep in 2020. I didn't start like really working. Yeah, really working until last May is when I started.
Oh wow.
Back full time, and I think your question was like, how am I balancing it all? I don't know. I don't have a choice. I don't have like a playbook. I just
have to.
Yes.
Yeah. That's adulting if I ever heard it also.
Yeah. Just, you gotta do it, and it just is rolling with the punches. But I will say that like getting back out there and making connections without my babies, and like remembering that I'm more than a mom, even though that's the most important thing. Working really helped with that. And then working branched, like friendships through work, hang out with my other friends, group things like that. And I just was able to like, I don't know, it's hard to separate yourself from your babies when they're like so little, but.
Right. Yeah. So obviously not on the parent note, but like Leah, what's your version of like, oh, these are the responsibilities that I'm trying to balance? Because I know like as you get more into like, hair and all that sort of stuff of like trying to do more of your own thing, but also there's music, also there's like creative things like this, that like, what does all of that look like on your end?
For me, the only like actual responsibilities that I have are to pay my bills. So like balancing my work by trying to market myself and make sure that I like have clients on my book so that I can help put food on the table. That's like my core thing. That's like the one thing that I have to do. It's like regardless of what I want to do, it's kind of like what you were saying, like I just have to make that happen because
it's fun stuff.
Yeah. And then the fun stuff, sometimes the reason that I feel like I sometimes have issues with balance is because like when I'm having to do X, Y, and Z with work, because I do creative-ish work, sometimes I feel so drained by the end of the day that I don't have time to do the things that I actually enjoy.
Right.
On a typical day, I'll work, come home, do dinner, Nick and I will watch Sailor Moon or something, and then we'll go to bed. And that's just become like my bread and butter, like day-to-day thing. And it's not very exciting. And there's a million things that I'm always like, oh, I really should make time to like, write a song, or I should take time to like write in a journal. Like there are a lot of things that I want to do, but I struggle to not burn myself out.
Yeah. That makes sense. I feel like that, obviously like my main responsibilities, again, like you were saying, Leah, is like, all right, I got to pay my bills. Like that's the biggest thing. But outside of that, like I genuinely feel like, and I'm going to say this in a way that I'm also going to emphasize, I'm trying to take advantage of this while this can be my main responsibility.
Yeah.
Until, like all like what I would deem real adult things pop up. Is right now I feel like my main responsibility, I'm really leaning into being for myself to be happy. That's my main responsibility that I feel like I put it at the forefront of my mind. Like even because I feel like that translates into work and paying bills. Do I want to say yes to this client or this project or this idea that is going to burn me out or is going to annoy me or is going to negatively impact me in some way, but cool to help me pay my bills? Like, yeah, sometimes we have to make those decisions, but I try to filter out as much of those as possible because the happiness is the forefront. I still know I need to pay my bills, but I do think, luckily, with, you know, growing up and maturing and all this sort of stuff, I do have a confidence unlocked in, if I say no to this thing that could impact my bills, I sure hope it works out, but I'm pretty confident that I'll find another way to solve that problem.
Yeah.
And so I think, like, I'm trying to take advantage of that focus as much as possible right now, of like, all right, I have the time, like I said earlier, I can determine what my day looks like every single day.
Yeah.
If I want to go to the gym, if I want to sit at home, if I want to work on a project all day, if I want to start a new idea, have 19 meetings, whatever, those are things I can genuinely fill my day with that actually bring me joy and then further fulfillment. And so, like, I feel like my responsibility is a balance of my current happiness, but also a responsibility to future me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That I feel like is where a lot of my focus is, of like, how can I assure that future me is set up better? So then when those, again, what I will label real adult things pop up, how can I be as prepared as I can be for things that are going to just throw my plan out the window? You know what I mean?
Well, it's like packing your lunch when you're a kid. I don't know if you guys ever packed a lunch, but I used to, like, I would pack my lunch like the night before. And like sometimes you forget, like, oh, I threw some fucking Teddy Grahams in there. Like, thanks past me. Because like I was thinking forward to, like, hey, this little pocket of maybe it's a client that gives me a hard time or something, and I'm like, all right, this little extra like chunk of change though, like, just throw it in the lunchbox for the future, because like future me is going to be happier if present me is a little bit unhappy right now, and that's okay.
No, that's fair. How do you guys feel like you've balanced or found or battled with, like, confidence as we all kind of grow up? Like, let's talk about the confident thing for a second.
For sure. Well, confidence is something I've noticed recently, that there's a difference between like having self-confidence and having self-esteem. Self-confidence, I feel like I'm pretty good at that. Self-esteem, not so much. But confidence is just like looking at yourself and being able to say, like, I do cool things. I have a good support group. Like, people enjoy me as a person. Like, I try my best, and I know that I'm putting out into the world essentially like the best that I can. Mm-hmm. And I feel like confidence wise, I rarely look at myself and say, I'm not trying my best. Mm-hmm. So that's not something that I feel like I struggle with a lot, because I think the self-esteem part is the part where I don't necessarily this is going to sound bad, but it will get better. I don't put value on myself the way that I put value in others. And so I will usually be confident that whatever I'm doing is going to please who it needs to please, because I'm a people pleaser. So a lot of times, even if I know I'm burning myself out, I'll be like, it's fine. Same. You're getting this thing done, and this person's going to be stoked about it.
Yeah, once it's done and they're happy, I can breathe.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I spent 7 hours on this hair color, but look how stoked this fucking person is. And maybe my back hurts and whatever, but that's going to be like a nice little confidence booster to be like, all right, like, I killed that though.
Yeah. I like the explanation.
I did that.
Of like the whole like self-confidence, but also self-esteem. Cause I feel like probably very similar. I feel like a way of thinking that I've recently, like, I don't know, just started thinking about in general, leading with, is like, I feel like, and I don't know if this goes for everyone, I do feel like it's pretty similar to what you were just talking about, but like the way I've been explaining it is, I feel like there's two versions of confidence in all of us, and I don't know cooler words to name them, so I've just been labeling them like subconscious confidence and conscious confidence, right? So like one version of that, the conscious one, it's at the forefront of our mind. It's kind of what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, I know I do cool things, or I know I'm a nice person, or I know, like, I'm confident in those sort of things. The very just like upfront, top of mind. All right, cool. Yeah, I'm skilled at this, blah, blah, blah. But I think that's sort of like a walk in the room version of confidence, right? Like, what am I carrying into this, whatever. I think the subconscious element of confidence is what is like the calloused build up over time. Like, that's the confidence we get through all of our experiences that we're not necessarily always tapping into and leading with like we would be. But I think that's our backup tank.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
That's
like fight or
like-
flight. That's what's coming out is truly what you're
Yes.
capable of.
Is like, even in like our worst moments when that pops up, there's still an element, because like having experienced some like not fun stuff recently, that is the reason this podcast existed. When I was talking to you guys about those things, it wasn't like, none of it turned into a lack of actual confidence for me of being like, oh my gosh, I'm not good enough. I must suck. This isn't going to work, blah, blah, blah. That wasn't necessarily like what I was leading with, but it was that like really back of the mind, subconscious confidence that carried me through all of that stuff, because I was like, no, I know I can figure this out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I can get through it, but that like front level confidence, like that's not really there. Like that's not what you know what I mean? It's like I wasn't able to just walk around and be like, everything's cool, everything's fine. But there's something in that reserve tank in the back of my mind was like, yeah, we don't feel great about this, but we know we're capable of making it through this. We're good. We know we're a good person. We know we have the skills, that whatever mental, emotional understanding to get through this. So we know we've got this. And so for me, I feel like that's like a new way of identifying all of that sort of stuff. So I feel like when it comes to living life, adulthood, all this sort of stuff, I'm kind of always balancing those two things back and forth, where I'm like, yeah, we're going to use the front of the brain confidence. You know what I mean? I'm going to use that most of the time, but I also know the thing that's really carrying me through this is, well, no, I can start a 19th podcast with some friends because I know how to do it.
Yeah.
I know how to, you know what I mean? I know how to have that structure.
I have the
like,
time. I have everything I need to do it. So I'm going to do it.
Right.
And sometimes that's all you need is the pieces.
Yeah.
It's almost like the subconscious confidence is the thing that's just facts. You're like, well, like sometimes I'll be like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this right now, or maybe this isn't the right time for that. And then I just go, and then I have that thought in the back of my head, like, no, like right now's the time because you have this thing and you did that and now you're ready. And like, and then I'm like, no, okay. Yeah. Like sometimes you have just like a laundry list of like, maybe like reasons or like explanations of like, no, like I'm going to make it through this because I did X, Y, and Z, or I am X, Y, and Z, or I have X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, it's like the cliche thing that I'm sure you've seen float around the internet of like, you have an undefeated record of making it through every one of your worst days so far.
Yeah.
That means something.
Right.
You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? Like the fact that we're here having a bad day now, that sucks
Right.
to go through it. But remember, you've also made it through every single one of those. So again, it builds up that, you get your reps in, it builds up that callous confidence in the back of your mind of like, oh no, I know I can do this. Brittany, your thoughts on like, where are you at with this? Like, 'cause I do feel like this is stuff that we have talked about recently.
I feel I'm a very fake it till you make it. Like I feel like people give me more credit than I think that I deserve.
Imposter.
Super imposter syndrome. Like you asking me if I want to start a podcast, I'm like, what? Me? Even though you tell me all the time, like we have great conversations. I know that we have great conversations. I just feel like everyone thinks I'm cooler than what I think that I am. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, if you think I can do cool things, I'll try to do cool things. We'll see if I can do cool things. And that's been my entire life.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. That makes sense.
But so it's like a little bit of confidence, but it's fake confidence. Like I'm going, I really don't know if I have any clue if I can do this thing.
But there's confidence, like what Ross is talking about, that subconscious thing of being like, no, yeah, I can do this.
No, I'm going to give it a try.
I'm good at
for
having
sure.
conversations with people. Because
Yeah.
I've had that a couple of times where I was like, what credentials do I have that anybody's going to want to hear what I have to say about these things? But I'm like, no, because I've had meaningful conversations with people, including Ross and now with you, where like going into it, I was like, I don't know if this is meant for me.
I don't know what I'm going to bring to this.
Yeah, what I'm going to bring to the table. But it's that thing that like maybe you don't have that front line, but maybe it's the back line.
And sometimes people know something about you, you don't. Like we're our own worst critics. So if someone's asking you like, are you interested in doing this thing or trying this thing? Like they didn't just like pick you off the street most of the time.
Right.
Yeah, no, I mean that is the thing. Like I was very specific of like, okay, here's a new podcast idea. I was very specific with the two people that I would want to do it with. You know what I mean? Like there's a reason for that.
Yeah. Well, and I think imposter syndrome is kind of like how sometimes I don't even feel like I'm an actual adult, and it's like you saying like I don't feel cool. It's almost like when other people are like, "Oh, you're cool," and you're like, "Why do you think like I feel like I'm just me?" You know what I mean? So when people are like, "Oh, Brittany, you're cool," you're like, "Oh, thanks."
And I'm like, "What did I do? Was it purposeful? You know what I mean? Like, what was it that made you think this thing?"
Yeah.
Right. And that's what imposter syndrome is essentially, is just like you're fully capable of doing all the things, and there's just like a part of your brain that's like, but what if you're not? But it's important that the louder voice in your head is the one that's telling you to like do the thing.
So let's talk on the point of like what we assume things are or are not, or how we fit into that. Like what do we feel like adults are supposed to be? We haven't talked about that yet.
Yeah.
Like what you know what I mean? Because like we've talked so much about this. Like I can sit and I can say, to me as a almost 30-year-old adult, I'm like, oh, why don't I have a house? Why aren't I in a super deep long-term relationship and getting married or about to get married? And should I be thinking about kids? Like, oh my gosh. But like, I can also sit and be like, yeah, but I'm having a lot of fun doing all the other things that I'm doing
and I could
for me.
Have all of those things and be like, wow, what if I had 47 podcasts?
Literally though, like, yes, I could have all of those things and be like, because like I'm thinking ahead of like, okay, when any of those things pop up, is there anything like that I'm going to miss right now?
Yeah.
And then how can I build a solid enough foundation into adulthood that I can maintain as much of this as humanly possible? So like, that's sort of what I like, I don't know what I think adults are, but also
I think that they don't exist. I think that that's a made up term.
That's what I was about to, yeah.
And there's no such thing as a real adult. You get older and you're like, oh, your parents are just people. They're not even adults.
That's a huge,
like they're just people.
Yep.
And that's the thing is, I mean, an adult is an 18-year-old. And it was kind of like what we were talking about earlier is like ages of babies. Yeah. Up until the age of 3, you pretty much use months, because a fresh 1-year-old is very different from an almost 2-year-old. And I feel like looking at humans the same way, of just being like, you're a fresh adult, like 18, like
18 versus 45.
Yeah. I mean, at 18, you have a lot of, you can eat whatever you want. You have a lot of energy probably compared, and you're not jaded. There's lots of things that are great about it. But at 45, you got some more shit figured out and you're probably a little bit more secure, whatever. There's like, I don't know, pros and cons of getting older. But I think ultimately, like, there isn't really like an age where I'm like, that person's a grown up. But there are things like I feel like there's an unspoken thing of like when you find out somebody's older than you, like if you don't know their age, and then you find out they're a little bit, even just like a year or two older, and you're kind of like, oh, I kind of respect that person a little bit more somehow. Or if you find out, like finding out somebody has kids, I'm like, oh my God, like I respect you so much because you have so much, like I already know you have patience because you're a parent. Maybe not all parents have patience, but I feel like, but
it takes patience.
Yeah. And this is maybe a whole different thing, but I feel like people that have gone through like life-threatening, like whether it's an illness that they've faced, or if somebody had like, I don't know, a near-death experience or something like that, I'm like, you've brushed the end.
That
makes you,
You can be homeless and like be so mentally aware of like who you are and like where the world stands and where you stand in the world, and not have any like routine or structure at all. And you have this like wisdom, and you're an adult. I don't care about like a CEO that got like really lucky and had like a rich dad and now, has a business book.
Right.
Even though he actually did nothing. Like that's not an adult.
It's people that have done or learned things that I feel I have not done or learned, but I respect those things in a way. Like I don't know if I will ever have children, but I can look at a good parent, I should say, because I know not all parents are great parents, but I can look at somebody and knowing that they're a good parent, have, obviously you respect good parents, but like have a different almost like, oh wow, like you're kind of more of a grown up than I assumed. Like, does that make sense?
I mean, I look at, I don't know, just like, to be super honest, there's sometimes I look at people and I'm like, man, like, I don't know, like, what are you doing? Like, you're not really chasing that dream. You're not really doing the thing or whatever. But if they have a kid, I'm like, well, nope, but you got it though. You're keeping a human alive.
Yeah.
So like that to me, I'm like, well, default setting, you know what? Like, and it's not about everybody chasing dreams and being creative and shit like that.
My
but
kids
like,
are my creative endeavors.
yeah. And I'm like,
Yeah.
At a default setting, the fact that you are keeping another human alive that doesn't know how to stay alive, you know what I mean? Like,
and are actively trying to kill themselves.
I mean, yeah, because listen, we joke about it all the time. How terrified am I?
Yeah.
When Brittani, either of your children are doing anything slightly reckless, I'm like, oh my God, what do we do? And you're like,
is anyone watching the children?
and you're like, oh no, yeah, I'm about to watch her backflip off the couch right now. And I'm like, should she be up there? Like, I'll catch her. Oh my God, we need pillows. Like, I flip out when they're doing anything. I have a heart attack 97 times when we're hanging out. Because when the kids
and
do
that's
anything,
just me relaxing on my couch.
literally, you're like, oh yeah, we're all good. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, they're building a whole tower over here and they're going to jump off of it. She's like, yeah, it's pretty sick. Check it out. I promise they'll be fine. It's great. Like, yeah.
Welcome to Jackass.
Literally.
That is my out.
That's what it is. And I'm terrified the entire time. But again, it's different when you're like, oh no, yeah, I see this every day. I know how it goes. Like, we're good. I know they're going to be fine. Or, you know, whatever it is.
You've become calloused to chaos.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Where I'm like, oh my God, this is the most insane thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, someone
my
catch her,
gosh.
please. Like, don't do this. Okay, so let's lean into
You
wrapping.
didn't say what you felt like an adult really like. You said a
did
little
I?
bit like, but I felt like what's something
Or like
that you look
someone.
for. Yeah. Like what's something that you look at somebody and you think, like, I know you said maybe like a house or something like that, but
Yeah.
also those things aren't necessarily like, I don't
Yeah,
know, make it or break
something
it
like a less
things.
materialistic thing, maybe. For me, I think it would be
Like a quality.
I think it would be self-awareness.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think that is like a measuring stick of how I look at or
That's how I feel about everyone.
Yeah, that's sort of how I look at a lot of people
Yeah.
now. It doesn't really matter what age they are, but especially if I'm looking at somebody who I would deem, you know, especially working like in the creative world, there's a lot of people who like own businesses and do dope stuff that I'm like, at first I'm like, dang, you run a business and I couldn't do it that way. And you do it in a field or an industry that I don't understand. Like, that's so cool. Respect. But, and I don't mean this as bad as it's going to sound, but then sometimes it just takes one conversation with somebody and I'm like, you're the most unaware person.
Yeah.
You just sort of do stuff and it works. And so for me, it's like that respect factor that what I would deem almost somebody an adult or not an adult.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
like, man, you are
That's
just sort
what
of
I would say, same.
saying stuff.
Yeah.
You're just sort of doing stuff. You're using people. You're walking on people. Like, that is a huge lack of self-awareness.
I feel like social awareness also, like, it gives you a sense of maturity or immaturity.
Exactly.
And I think that having that mature, like, air about someone is another thing that grown-ups should have.
Oh,
And,
100%.
like, in my,
Grown-ups.
like, yeah,
Yes.
what, like, grown-ups
Grown-ups.
should have.
Yes.
And I also, like, growing up, like, I don't know if you guys ever had, like, weird things where you were like, when I'm a grown-up, I'm gonna blah, blah, blah.
Probably, yeah.
And when I moved into my current home, I have a refrigerator with one of those water things.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
Oh,
I
that
made
was-
it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're like,
I made it.
So that was yours. Okay, what was mine? Oh, when I was a kid, my friends had my friend's living room had the clap on, clap off lamps,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh my God, like, what do you do for a living that you have clap on,
Yeah.
clap off, and it works? It's so futuristic.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, you tell me if mine counts. I feel like the very first thing I did when I got an actual job and had like my first debit card and stuff, the first pizza I ordered on my own.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I don't know if that counts, like, because I was freshly an adult at that point in time, but
Or driving anywhere when you first.
yeah.
Ooh, man.
Yeah, I think back to that. I'm like, I got
I
that
didn't get
pizza by myself. I was like,
You're
paid
so
for
excited
it. It
to
showed
order it,
up.
and now I'm like crying if I have to call someone ever.
I'm like, please don't make me or like, and if I have to, I'll memorize everything and then I'll just like spew it off and then they'll go, I'm sorry, we're out of the blah blah blah, and I'm like, I wasn't. It's like
Yeah.
in SpongeBob, they're running around, there's papers flying everywhere
Yes.
inside my brain, and
It's
they're like, we
changed.
weren't prepared for this.
Yes. What's as we start to wrap up, what's one of the like weirdest or funniest things you think you still do as an adult, or maybe you've even started doing as an adult?
Ooh.
I love this question. Still do? I still eat cereal every single day.
Okay.
That's not obviously that's like a childhood. Every single day I have to eat cereal.
Fair.
And that feels like a childish thing, right? Cereal's for kids. In my brain, cereal's for kids. Cereal is for kids.
Maybe.
Not
I know.
Honey
I know.
Smiths.
Tricks
Tricks
were
for kids.
for sure.
Tricks were for kids, and also Lucky Charms.
Frosted Flakes for the adults.
Yeah. Gosh, if I feel like if I had something that like I consider like a childish thing maybe, or like a thing that like my inner child still does. Come back to me. Go, Ross.
Pass.
I feel like
Pass.
mine is probably staying up late and sleeping in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like
that's a good one.
And but I've made it work because I know if I wake up at 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., noon,
That's fine, and it fits in your lifestyle.
I know that the rest of my day, I know I can adjust and discipline myself to get whatever done I need done. But that has been, I mean, since I was a kid, staying up late, sleeping in, that's always been my thing. And that hasn't, like, it's slowly restructured itself a little bit. I am actually, I mean, this is a big life change for me. I'm finding myself naturally waking up earlier and earlier.
I was scared to start today at 10 a.m.
Really?
For you. Yeah.
What's weird is literally lately, like, I have been just naturally waking up like so much. And, like, I'll wake up at like 9 or something. And
Without an alarm,
like,
yeah.
Without an alarm. But to me, that's
I
like,
haven't seen past like 6:30 a.m.
Exactly. 9 a.m. to me is a whole different world.
Yeah.
I'm like, what
Yeah.
does anyone do at this time right now? What are we doing?
That's what I
But-
do all the time. I'm
Yeah.
literally like, I'll have like a 9 a.m. client, and I had to, drive 30 minutes to get there and get there 15 minutes early to like open up shop and all that stuff. And I'm like, who functions
That's my
at this
most
hour?
adult thing. I would like all plans to start at 7 a.m. I want to get them over with.
Yeah. See, I like, it's weird because like I'm willing to do that. Like whenever there's like a production day or something really early where it's like, hey, call time is 7 a.m.
Oh,
I don't
man.
love that. But what's weird is I will still not fall asleep until like 3. But then at 7, usually I still wake up before my alarm. Like somehow my body naturally like avoids an alarm. I would say 7 or 8 out of 10 times.
Wow.
So like when I know I have to get up early, I just naturally wake up like within at least 5 minutes before my alarm.
Does that make you mad? Because I do the same, but I'm closing my eyes.
This is a very
I get
adult
angry.
thing that I've always done. I've never been a snoozer.
I've always been a snoozer.
Oh yeah, I'm the biggest.
Nope.
Oh no.
I have never been a snooze person.
So we're
either.
both
So
snoozers.
for sure. So all you have to do is set the alarm and you're up.
Basically. But it lets me get away with the quote unquote childish thing of I know I can stay up until 3 and do whatever I want because even though I got to get up at 7 and that sucks, I know I'm going to.
Yeah.
And usually I'm not even like that tired even after I wake. You know what I mean? I'm not like walking into the thing I have to do like, oh my God. I'm just like, cool. All right,
I
this is
will
what we're
say
doing.
that like I've noticed my allergies get worse if I like hang around in my bed if I'm awake. I don't know why that's a thing, but if I like hit snooze a bunch of times and then I'm like sitting in bed and just like on my phone for a long time, like I get really sniffly. So I've been trying lately to actually like when I wake up, not roll back over and go to sleep, or if I have my alarm go off, maybe hit snooze like once. Because I'm telling you, like I like will go for an hour.
Oh yeah,
snooze.
before I had kids, now I wake up at like 7 a.m. every day. Before I had kids, I had never wanted to sleep before like 10 a.m. And I would hit snooze until my phone would be like, "Are you okay? I'm
Yeah.
not letting you snooze again."
We have called
I'll
the
hit
police.
snooze for
the-
hours.
Yeah, my my secret New Year's resolution. I never announced it because I knew I wasn't going to be able to keep myself accountable. But I always wished that I could just like be a morning person. Like I'm the kind of person like so I talk in my sleep. This is part of it. But Nick will wake me up or think he woke me up and try to talk to me about something. He's learned not to do this at this point. And he'll just be like, "You were really mean this morning." I'm like, "When?" He's like, "Well, this morning I was talking to you about blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Was I asleep?" And he's like, "Well, I don't know. You were talking." And I was like, "Was I asleep when you came in?" "Yeah." And I'm like, "You can't do that."
I was
I'm a
not
different
awake.
person.
That I wasn't there.
I wasn't actually
That's
there.
not me.
That was not me.
You did not talk to
Yeah.
me this morning. You absolutely did not.
Yeah.
Okay, final thing, and then we're wrapping
Yeah.
the episode.
Okay. Oh, I think I didn't tell my thing.
Oh wait, yeah, you
My-
didn't. You
my
passed. You
thing.
passed. Yeah.
I think the snooze thing is definitely really big for me, and the staying up late thing. I really related to that. But I don't know. I think I also am really good at procrastinating. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm really good at being like, oh, I have X, Y, and Z to do. And I know that there's like, usually there's like one thing that I'm like, oh, if I start this, it's going to take the whole, the whole day or whatever. And so I've always been very good at like putting things off to the last minute. And I'm trying to be better about it because I like to be as prepared as possible for stuff. But sometimes I like the idea of preparing something gives me anxiety, and then I'm like, I'll just wing it. It's fine.
Yeah. It's weird because I'm good at waiting till the very last minute to get something done. But because I've learned I'm good at that, I'm always just like, yeah.
It worked out though.
I'll get it done the
night before. The due date is the day that I do it.
Literally. It's like, all right, I need to get this thing done tomorrow. It's like, I'm finishing it the night before because I unfortunately know that I will be able to.
We are who we are.
We are who we are. Weren't we talking about TikTok in the last episode?
We were going to bring, I thought we were
bring out the band
on a side quest of songs.
We're doing an adult song.
What do we do?
We all read the script. Let's not pretend like we didn't read the lyrics.
What are we doing?
Oh, it's snap break. Forgot. Whoops.
Guys, I can't snap my fingers. They hurt too bad.
Oh, damn it.
Okay, great song. I'm so glad that was in there.
Is that
reading my lips?
How are you doing?
How are you doing?
Because he's just guessing, I think.
He looks so concerned the whole time. Guys, we are definitely adults. If this episode showed us anything, it's that we are a bunch of adults.
Yep, 100%. Biggest thing we've each learned as we've entered adulthood. Biggest lesson we've actively learned. Go.
Be yourself. Mm-hmm. Don't let little things keep you down, and realize that failures are just lessons that get you closer to your goals.
Love it.
Self-awareness is your most important attribute, and we're all floating on a rock in space.
Incredible. I would say that to remember that nobody has it figured out. Even if they look like they have it figured out, it seems like they have it figured out, they really don't. And we're all just trying to navigate this every single day, trying to figure out what works for us and how we impact other people and all this sort of stuff. So don't let imposter syndrome creep in. Don't let comparison creep in and make your decisions for you. Nobody has it figured out except for us, because we're talking about life on a podcast. And who has it figured out more than people who make a podcast? Am I right?
Psychologists and therapists everywhere.
Well, okay.
Dr. Brittani.
You didn't have to. Yeah. Okay, so as we say goodbye, Dr. Brittani, where can people find you around the internet?
At HAIBRITTANI.
Dr. Leah, if people would like to come get prescribed life by you, where can they find you? LA.PETITEGOTH. And I am at RossTyson.PhD because I am also a doctor. But most importantly, the show is at Honestly Same Pod. Hit like, subscribe, follow, all the things you need to do to let us keep being adults and making a show about adulthood and all the things.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks too. Thanks. I said it too. Thanks. Thank you guys.
Russ is very grateful.
Thank you guys. I'm so grateful.